The highly anticipated Season 2 premiere of Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage begins with an episode that mostly addresses the fallout from the significant choices made in the Season 1 finale. Young Sheldon's cancellation is still controversial just a few years after it was announced. Fortunately, Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage manages to carry on the story, albeit in part. I was particularly impressed by Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage's ability to strike a mix between comedy and emotion in my initial ScreenRant review. This was particularly significant because George's death in Young Sheldon had not been long ago. However, the goal of Season 2 of Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage is to expand on what it has done and it accomplished in its first year. For background, there were several shocking revelations in the Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage Season 1 finale that will influence the remainder of the clan's future. Mandy secured a long-term position as a weather girl at the station, but it requires her to collaborate with her former partner. In other news, Georgie and Ruben unexpectedly partnered by purchasing Jim's car shop when he retired. Georgie and Ruben in the First Marriage of Georgie and Mandy. Mary and Meemaw made a comeback in the premiere of Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage. Though he has never made an appearance in the sequel spin-off, Sheldon was mentioned in the first few episodes, which even openly addressed George's death. Season 2 of Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage is now available, with a story that hardly relates to the Cooper family in the first place. It now centers on what's going on with the McAllisters on the opposite side of Medford. Georgie and Ruben's attempts to cooperate in their joint enterprise are the primary focus of A Tire Breaker and a Huge Mistake, The Offering. After the thrill of retirement wears off, Jim feels lost at home. Mandy and Audrey attempt to be there for their husbands in the interim. Seeing Georgie establish his tire empire seems less like establishing ties to Young Sheldon and more like a prelude to the Big Bang Theory. Although his unique ability to fix tire holes was already demonstrated in the prequel, this plot's payoff in terms of that might still be the case in Season 11 of The Big Bang Theory, when Jerry O'Connell made his debut as Sheldon's older brother. The wise course of action is to gradually distance oneself from Young Sheldon's shadow. The reality is that Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage should concentrate on their present lives, even though it will never truly be able to break off its ties to its predecessor. Season 2 will undoubtedly have familiar characters like Mary, Missy, and perhaps Pastor Jeff, but their tales must focus on the present and future rather than the past. The First Marriage of Georgie and Mandy building a personal identity is beneficial for its future. It's no secret that the established canon of the Big Bang Theory dictated Young Sheldon's conclusion. However, strict timelines do not apply to Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage. Because Georgie's debut on the Big Bang Theory, in which he and Mandy are no longer together, is still roughly 20 years away, it can go on for years to come. The show's current challenge is to keep growing its following to the point where that CBS will continue to renew the show. It appears to have a promising future on broadcast TV, at least for the time being. At the end of Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage, Season 1, the Cooper and McAllister family had discovered new avenues for their own success. Georgie finds just enough money to purchase the family firm, and Jim is able to finally retire. As the only two workers at the auto repair shop, he and his new business partner, Ruben, are thus faced with the difficult task of managing a company alone. It goes without saying that their tendency to argue and quarrel all the time is an issue. On the other side, Jim finds that retirement without a purpose seems much more like boredom than days of leisure. Nevertheless, a little trial and error and some innovative thinking can help resolve conflicts. Beware of spoilers. Ruben and Georgie argue about business decisions. Georgie and Ruben are excited to explore what the shop's future holds after making one of the most important decisions of their lives. The fact that they both currently owe a significant sum of money raises the stakes in the whole matter. Nevertheless, the younger man makes an effort to maintain a positive attitude, brewing aspirations to establish a brand and build other locations nationwide. His lofty aspirations, in turn, just make Ruben more terrified. In contrast to his partner, the latter is becoming more and more worried about future debt repayment. For the same reason, the other man flatly rejects Georgie's suggestion that they purchase a computer in order to digitize their documents and archives. Ruben is still wary about taking any more chances, despite Georgie's plan having some merit. Furthermore, the other man loses faith in him because his partner is unable to focus on things like profit-loss charts and other practical parts of managing a business. Consequently, the two are at a turning point, where they are still unable to decide on anything as a group about their service shop. Jim becomes weary of not working immediately. Jim maintains a positive outlook on the new situation in the initial hours of his official retirement. He comes to the realization that he can finally finish all of the major tasks he has been putting off for years. As a result, the man spends the most of his newly discovered leisure time tidying the attic, arranging the garage to his liking, and creating plant beds for his wife, Audrey. But he was only able to complete this to-do list for one morning and a little portion of the afternoon. As a result, Jim quickly runs out of real projects to work on to fill up his time. The day's several hours. Eventually, he is fork.